instead of an array, I stored them in an object. Let's copy these two things. An object, let's say, called notes, where the keys in the object are the ID of that note. So note-4, colon, this note, and the key note-5, colon, this note. Now, why would I do that? Here's one reason. It means I can get a note back out of there by saying notes, square bracket, the ID. So if I know the ID, it's really easy to get the note back out of there. I don't have to loop over it comparing the IDs, and I don't have to use index of. Makes sense why I might want to do that? Why I might want to store them in an object instead of an array? So I can grab them by index, by the ID. Make any sense at all? So let's do it. Heck, let's just copy exactly that. So notes instead of this array is this object. And just to make sure that it's really the object that I think it is, I'm going to change the titles. Note from obj. Even fancier. Now, notice I had to quote the key here because, again, it's not a valid variable name. So I have to quote the key. Now I can't map over an object, right? Only an array. How can I get an array out of this object? Object keys. We did that on person stats, I think. And if you did the mirror object code words problem, you had to do that there too, really, or that's one way to do it. So what would that do for me? Object.keys, pass it this object notes. What does that give me? What's going to be in that array? The string note 4, the string note 5, right? So I'll say const note IDs. Make a little note here that that is an array with note 4 and note 5 in it. So I can map over that. So if I map over that, what is each item in the array? It's not a node, is it? It's just one node ID. So what do I pass in to my note prop? Given the ID, I have the ID available to me now as node ID. How do I get one of these individual notes out of there? Anybody else? So you can't use dot because it's a variable. Right? So if I have const key equals note 5, I can't say notes dot key, right? Because that will look for one with an actual key of the string key. What can I do? Square bracket. So heck, I had to use square bracket anyway because there's a dash in there. Yeah, so you could pass a variable into square brackets and get the item at that key. Just like an array. So what would I put inside these curly braces? So notes is my collection, right? Notes, square bracket, note ID. And note ID is the current item in the array as I loop over my array of IDs. You dig? Did it work? Yay, note from obj, even fancier. And all the while, I haven't made a single change to the note component, right? Not since the very first version that wasn't even from an array. Because note doesn't care where the data comes from. It just cares that it gets the data in the right format that it expects. Whether it was from a single variable, whether it was one item out of an array, one item in an object, it makes no difference to the note component. It's just as easy. Make a small little commit for this. Dynamically render notes from an object. But I don't really want this to just be a local variable that I've hard-coded inside note list, right? Note list is responsible for rendering the note list, but the note list should come to it from somewhere else too.